you got there? Oh,
When I walked up there, I was like Spider-Man, and I'm like Groot. I see Groot.
I didn't see Groot at all.
Yeah.
I just wanted the Iron Man. That was the only one I wanted. I got this one.
I would have taken Groot in a heartbeat.
But Jay's like, oh, well, we got to get other ones. I'm like, dude,
I like
you
the
don't
Thanos.
I went up there.
Jay picked the Thanos one, yeah.
I walked up and I go, I would like a orange and Sprite half and half.
In
And
that
one
cup.
of them Avenger cups. He goes,
You got to buy the whole thing.
and he goes, well, and I go, let me guess, I have to buy the whole thing. He goes, yeah. I go,
By the way, I asked about. We walked into the theater, and the first thing we saw was that giant Sistine Chapel poster
yes.
Of Cable and
Yes.
Deadpool.
Did you ask about it?
I did, and they said it belongs to the company. I'm like, oh, that's Disney. I mean, people like forget that he's owned by Disney, and ultimately, and Sony's the one doing the movie. And he's like, yeah, we can't give that away. We have to give that back to the company or something like that.
There's
like,
no way they
That's
give
what he
that
said.
crap back to the company.
That's what I said.
I'll tell you what, I'll go to the
But
theater.
did you sit there? Well, you should have done.
I did.
You did.
I did.
Okay, good.
Well,
good.
I'll go to the theater there in Battlegrounds because they specifically told me all their posters they give out or give away.
Swear to God, you get that one, I will hang it right behind my head. We'll do the video with it right behind my
Because
head.
that's beautiful. The whole.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen that.
I have too. I saw it at the con a little while ago.
All right.
Anyway, we're back. So we are recording. Everything's running. We've kind of jumped ahead a little bit in the space part. And we're kind of at the point where Gamora... when Thanos... And I was getting to this when Thanos being a complex character was... I thought it was really interesting. It was a little annoying that Gamora didn't get it. Because she obviously... He had tricked Gamora into thinking she had killed him in an earlier scene with the Reality Stone. Mm-hmm. Which was pretty badass. But of course you know it was fake. Because I'm like, how are they going to do this? And even Peter Quill goes... That was easy.
Yes, I was gonna say. Even one of the characters goes, "Well, that was quick."
Well, that was quick. And of course, it turns out it was fake, and then that's when he captured Gamora. But then to find out that he had to sacrifice her to get the Soul Stone.
I think she knew as soon as the Red Skull was talking about what it took to get.
Well, if the Red Skull even says the tear's not for you,
at that
or
point,
not for
earlier,
her.
during the trickery scene that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, he even says that I knew that you loved me, you know.
Yeah.
Because she's crying over his dead body.
Yeah.
But what she didn't realize, you know, during that whole thing is like, you know, you must sacrifice the soul that you love. What she didn't realize is that he loved her too.
Yeah.
Which was given away earlier. She
To the audience, but not necessarily her.
So she didn't put two and two together as she's laughing at him. Mm-hmm. And the entire audience is like, you're the soul. You're the reason.
But then you stop and think, did he take her there knowing that?
Yes, absolutely.
That's darker even.
He had to have her in order to. He already knew that.
I think he was hoping there was a way out, but
Thanos knew. You know.
Oh, he certainly played it off well because even from the characterization standpoint.
Thanos is going to do
because the way the cinematography worked, the way they filmed him, you saw the play of emotions of he caught it as soon as the Red Skull said to get the Soul Stone,
right?
You have to sacrifice a soul.
My point is Thanos knew that because he already knew something about it. He already knew kind of where it was at, and.
Well, he didn't know where it was at, but he knew the aspect of it.
The aspect of it. Knowing where he had to go, he already had to know about that planet, what it was, doing his research. Knowing that, and just like, you know, when Peter had to shoot her and kill her, he was crying. Knowing that, coming to that reality and having to do the deed.
But then he turns around and tells Star-Lord, hey, I like you. And lets him live because he was willing to kill Gamora.
Yeah.
That was pretty badass, that part. I think that Thor and actually Thanos are parallel characters because they're both gods, essentially. Mm-hmm. They both have that kind of similar moment. In fact, they both are shot from the same angle with the tear, the same shot, the same way it's set up. And I think that it was also interesting that combined those two with the Hulk, and they took the strongest characters in the entire movie and made them, I don't want to say weak, but made them vulnerable.
Yes.
In a way that T'Challa or Captain America or nobody else, Tony kind of exhibited a little bit. And that actually leads to a point earlier, or kind of at this point where, let's stay in space. The three douchebags being Star-Lord, Doctor Strange, and Tony fighting Thanos. I found it interesting that as soon as Tony, not even on screen, like completely off screen, trying to pull the glove off. They basically have captured Thanos. They freeze him. Mantis has got him like locked in this kind of mind meld kind of thing.
Mind sleep.
Mind sleep. And he's fighting it. And Tony, I love that Tony goes, Spidey, come help me. You know, he's like, please help me, Spider-Man, which cracked me up. And they're trying to pull off the gauntlet. And then here comes Peter to kind of cap the whole thing off. And as soon as he realizes Gamora's dead, Tony off screen says, let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
Because Civil War, that's exactly what Tony did. He freaked out over his mom and lost his shit.
Yep.
And he knew that Peter was going to do that. Peter Quill was going to do that. I thought that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, he does, which is predictable, but he does. He fucks it all up because he never really pays for it later. Tony doesn't rub it in his face, even though he could have. But he really
had time.
He didn't have time. Well, because at the end of that...
Oh, let's speak about time here.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. At the end of that scene with the 4 or 5 of them fighting Thanos, I do love when Thanos first shows up again. Brolin and Thanos, so awesome, deadpan, just no emotion whatsoever, just strolls onto the place like he owns the fucker. Mm-hmm. And here's Doctor Strange sitting cross-legged on a bunch of rubble, basically going, how you doing? You know, that cracked me up. Yeah. And then one slip at the end of the conversation says, we're going to kick your ass, basically. And he goes, we. And then suddenly here comes...
Well, hold on. Yeah. You skipped a spot.
Yeah.
You skipped the spot where Doctor Strange, somebody notices that he's acting really weird because he's in a thought. And then they ask him, what's going on? And he goes, I just
watched
traveled through time
for like 4 million,
14 million.
14 million.
600.
And they say, well, do we win in any of them? And he goes, one.
So
that's what you're starting to watch, is that whole battle scene that he had already been through.
So that
vision.
Back that up. Okay, so Tony and Doctor Strange are having this little ethical decision. Is like,
he even says to him, we got an ethical compass. Good.
Yeah. And ethical compass, because Doctor Strange knows that, hey, if it comes between you, the kid, and the stone, I'm choosing the stone.
Yeah.
Which there's 14 million ways to do it. And in the end, the one way would have sacrificed Tony. That's the one way. Because if he didn't go in, if he would have stuck with his ethical and not be a human, if he would have stuck with his ethical decision, that's the one way that they could.
I would disagree.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I think we're
because
still on that
saving Tony was the one way they win.
I think
Doctor Strange said, "Now we're in the end game."
Yep,
he did
because he saved Tony.
Because
he's still
so I think Doctor Strange saw how they win is allowing Thanos to proceed.
Yeah,
right. I agree with that, because that's exactly what I was going to say.
How else do we have?
Well, there's 2 ways. There's 2 ways. So I didn't quite finish my thought.
Oh.
Sorry.
So there was the one way that I think they could have won is by sacrificing Tony and not giving him the stone. However, once he did that, my thought was he did that because they needed Tony is going to be the key to saving or to destroying Thanos later.
Right.
Obviously, in the end, Iron Man wasn't even there at the final battle. And Thanos...
But he
I think we might be oversimplifying it a little bit.
But he did survive.
Each person has a key role. And I think the only person to see all that was Doctor Strange.
Again, 14 million battles he witnessed. Part of that would have been...
14 endings.
Yeah.
14 million endings.
One worked.
Yeah.
And that one that worked had to have had him giving up that stone.
I think
because
that's true.
before that, even told him, if it comes between you and the stone...
I think it goes back to being human, because if you relate that to what Steve Rogers said to Phase or Vision is, we don't trade lives.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same thing that Doctor Strange did. We don't trade lives. We don't kill each other. We just we'll figure out another way. So I think both.
That's a possibility. I still think that that him giving up the stone was part of the whole 14 million ways to win.
I think that was the one way. But you're right. It's the point being, that's the crux right there. That's the point where everything diverges into whatever is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And of course, we all know everybody's going to win. I can't imagine Disney or Marvel would decide, you know what, we're just going to fuck with people like killing Optimus Prime and just annihilate everything and go, sorry guys, everybody lost.
Yeah, it's not 1986.
No, it's not going to happen.
Make you wait till
But
1987.
it kind of did.
What do you mean?
I mean, in the end, it kind of did.
No,
I mean, you
no.
You broke
Hey,
up.
let him finish this. He hadn't talked much today.
You broke up entire franchises by killing Gamora.
She's not dead.
You killed.
It's a comic book. Of course she's not dead.
Yeah, you killed the Widow.
She's not dead.
You killed Spider-Man.
He's not dead.
He's not dead.
Well, hold on. Now you're getting way ahead.
Now we're talking about other stuff.
Yeah, you're getting way
Gamora
ahead.
got killed before all that other stuff we're talking about.
Completely
Right.
different deaths.
Yeah.
They are all not dead.
Well, that's probably someone's got to be dead. Like it loses its
No.
if everyone survives at the end. It doesn't
Especially
make
since the talk of this is probably the last run, the last.
They're all not
many
dead.
of the principal
They're
characters,
all not dead.
or principal actors, I should say.
Yeah.
Maybe the principal actors are dead, but they're all not dead.
Well, I mean, they can. Captain America's already been like 3 different people. And Bucky at one point became Captain America.
Right.
Falcon at one point became Captain America.
Right.
So it's
But
they could go.
Steve
on.
Rogers in this timeline is still alive. They're
Yeah,
not all dead.
Currently.
Or else
but
we would not.
Spider-Man is not.
Look,
The kid Spider-Man's not.
He's been erased
he's been erased.
in a way. I almost thought
But
it was
he's not
time travel
dead.
for a second, but everyone still remembers these people. So it was just a matter of Thanos decided that half everybody dies. So randomly people died. But we're getting way further ahead. I think we should skip back for everything because we kind of gone into the space aspect. We kind of skipped how Tony and Spider-Man got in space in the first place. The whole scene in the trailer where Spider-Man has the spider sense, and there's that big Stargate-looking wheel, which they never really paid off. Like they never really told us what that was
Also,
about.
Tony called a donut.
Yeah, that's right. Called the donut. The Iron Spider finally shows up, which is awesome.
Perfect.
The Iron Spider stuff was great. I just kind of wish that Jennifer Connelly had been there to be the voice of his computer AI, Spider-Man's, because she is in the Homecoming movie. I was kind of hoping, because Friday shows up.
Yes.
Friday, he puts the sunglasses on, which is cool. What am I looking at, Friday? She's like, I don't know yet. I think that they could have done a Connelly one, too, where Spidey's like, hey, it's a new suit. Yeah, but I'm still here. Okay, great, let's go. Something like that. I think that would have been a little better.
They still might.
They still might. So, basically, we'll backtrack a little bit. We're back on Earth now. And Tony's with Pepper. Doctor Strange shows up, says, hey, we need help. Pepper's like, fuck. Again. And then they kind of brush past the whole, he's got the arc reactor back in his chest.
Right.
And he kept saying that it's not really there, like it's something protect.
It's on my shirt.
Yeah, it's on my shirt. They didn't really explain what that was about.
Yeah.
So he goes off with Doctor Strange, and he says, hey, we got to stop this ship that's landed. And then Spidey, of course, shows up out of nowhere. And that's how they all end up in space. They end up on this ship where that one minion of Thanos, the one with the telekinetic powers, he was my favorite.
Oh,
he was good. I liked him.
Yeah, and who said Dubalax? Somebody said Squidward. Somebody said Squidward. But he also reminded me of Double X in DC Comics. He's in Cadmus. He's the mutant with the horns. He's got telekinetic powers. Pretty much the similar kind of character. He was pretty cool. I liked them a lot. With the street fight between him and Doctor Strange and Tony and everybody, he's just whooping everybody's ass. So Doctor Strange gets kidnapped by this guy and taken into space, where he's hung kind of like the way Nebula is, kind of the same way, hung in power restraints, and he's being tortured for information. Tony and Spider-Man have ended up on this thing, and I love how Tony says when he gets pissed that Spider-Man shows up, he's like, "Okay, here's the problem. How would you fix it?" And Spider-Man's like, "Well,
have you ever seen Aliens?
Yeah, have you ever seen that old movie Aliens? And the entire place goes, What part of sucking out the airlock? Because that's not Aliens. He's referring to Alien. That's a goof right there. He's referring to Alien, and Aliens is a completely different movie. But sucking out the airlock was kind of okay. Well, I get it. It's a trope. It makes perfect sense.
No, actually, no. I take it back. It is an Aliens. Because when Ripley is in her mega thing.
That's right. It's the very end. I forgot. They do kind of end similar, don't they? Damn, I gotta watch that again. But anyway,
as you've said, it's one of your favorite 5.
Oh, big time. Of the box sets, yeah. So they basically suck the telekinetic guy out. He freezes in space, which is kind of like, well, Thor can live in space, and these other guys can kind of fight and live in space. How come this guy freezes? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, because that's what they did in Guardians. Like when they...
Well, Peter did, yeah. Or Peter Quill.
Well, Peter and
Gamora.
Well, everybody froze in space.
And Rooker.
Yeah, all of them like froze.
But remember,
in space.
each of these characters, there's different
abilities, different biological. Yeah,
you know,
some are super, some are
even
not.
Thor said, "I'm 1,500 years old."
Uh-huh.
He survived a lot.
Now
is he godlike or is he not?
Let's back up for a second.
You know,
to the Solo trailer, just for a second, and I'll cut this part out and move it forward. I will say this about the trailers that we saw. I was more excited about these trailers than I have been in the past. Some of the trailers, like Jurassic World, the first trailer was like, this is going to be fucking stupid. Mm-hmm. But then we watched tonight's trailer, and I was like, oh, this looks like fun. You know? Same thing with Solo. I kind of felt the same way. The first trailer was like, really? This is going to be lame.
That's a pretty good Solo
But then this
trailer.
one had some gags in it that was like, you're 190 years old, which only us hardcore fans know that's never in the movies at all.
No, they don't ever talk about his age.
They hint at it in the prequels because Chewbacca's there.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the books, of course, even back in the 70s, the novelization said he was 200 years old. All of us fans knew that. Mm-hmm. But for them to actually say that in one of the movies, it kind of cracked me up. I think that Glover, who's playing Calrissian,
I love it. I love it.
It looks
good.
good.
That's pretty cool.
It looks good.
Yeah, and the way the Falcon is designed from the Lego set of that Falcon, that part that's missing in the front is actually an ejection pod, like some kind of safety pod. But I love that it's like white with blue highlights and it's got the full front end. I think it's awesome. I can't wait to get one of the models or one of the Lego sets of it. Which I'm right now putting together Slave One. My stepmom got me the $200 Slave One Lego set, and it's like freaking awesome. I haven't put it all together yet, but anyway. So we'll skip forward. And I do agree that I like the way that they serviced every story that was going on. I kind of, like you said at the beginning, how are they going to do this? Which in Justice League and BVS, they fucked up. Mm-hmm. They couldn't do it. The Wonder Woman's the only one that really works. They were the only one that they set up correctly, which is why her movie worked, which is why in Justice League she's still the best part of that. I think they kind of succeeded in that respect. I think DC, and after watching Justice League this morning, I think that the Justice League, or rather DC Universe movies that are going on now, we would love them a lot more if we didn't have to compare them to Avengers. I think that Marvel has created something and run with something that has worked so well that now it's like, oh, well, these suck. But if you look at basically up to Iron Man, DC dominated. Mm-hmm. DC had the only, X-Men was in there, but that's Sony. It had a little bit in there, but basically DC was the only one who had the longevity. Like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, we thought at the time were like the greatest comic book movies ever, especially Batman Begins. But then I saw Iron Man, I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know a superhero movie could be like that. I hadn't felt like that about a superhero movie since Superman. That was the last one I felt that way. A little bit Batman in '89, but at any rate, so they're on the ship. Everybody's kind of coming at one direction. Where are we at in the story right now? Thor's off.
So Thor went to
with Rocket
and
Groot
to the Forge world.
Yeah. All right. Here's where Peter Dinklage comes in finally.
So that was
you
a
go ahead
funny
and
scene.
hit that one.
So I'm sitting there watching this, and Peter Dinklage, who I did not know was in the movie.
I didn't either.
I did.
He plays this dwarf, but not like a dwarf you see in the Lord of the Rings, where he's a tiny person. Yeah. Now, if you know Peter Dinklage, he actually is a tiny person. But in the movie for this,
he's like 10 feet tall.
He's like a massive dwarf. And when he shows up, I remember thinking to myself, "What is that, Peter Dinklage?" And then he did it again. I leaned over. I go, "That's Peter Dinklage." And you go, "Oh!" And because I was taken aback, I was caught off guard. And he played he did it real well. He was very dark and very.
I didn't understand the hands thing though.
The what?
I didn't understand.
Okay, so the hands thing is because they wouldn't allow him to forge any more shit.
Who's they?
Thanos.
Okay.
They even
so
said
he changed his hands into metal or stone
so
or something.
Can't forge
so he can't forge anything.
Which is why Thor said, "What do you need me to do?"
Right.
And we'll do it. And that was.
No, I got that. I just was confused. Yeah. Like, what did he do?
Did you happen
to
to notice
hands?
that Thor said he was 1,500 years old and Peter called him a boy?
Yeah.
That part was pretty
It makes
cool.
you wonder, right?
Yeah.
But and that's the other thing about this Infinity Wars is they went to so many different planets, and I love that they put the planet name down below, so you knew, oh, okay, they're at this planet.
That was very Winter Soldier. That whole kind of Prague, whatever.
Right. And I did appreciate that aspect of it.
It gave you some geography.
Yeah.
I felt like this was the most epic thing since Star Wars that I've seen. Definitely the most epic thing I've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
that it branched so far over the universe.
But what people don't need to know is when Thor and Rocket and Groot go to the Forge world, it's because this Forge planet or space station, whatever it is, they basically designed the greatest weapons for anybody, i.e. the original Thor's hammer came from this
Essentially,
place.
it's a Festus from
The
Greek
gauntlet.
mythology.
The gauntlet for the Infinity Stones came from
which
there.
is what Thanos is wearing. So all these things is coming from this particular place. So Thor knows, hey, I know how to get there. This is where we need to go. And Rocket at one point goes, wait, we can make basically the most devastating weapons
Ever?
humanity's ever seen. So he's all on board. That's why they make this trek over there. And then it was all about kickstarting this forge to get it going again, which is an interesting scene.
It is.
It was a cool scene.
Well, it kind of
And
gave
it's
him...
because I probably expected Thor to come out even stronger or with more powers or abilities.
I agree.
By being hit like by a star, but I don't feel like he did.
No, he just relied on the new hammer, the axe.
Yeah.
Which kind of bugged me too. I agree. That bugged me.
No.
Yeah, if he didn't need the hammer, why did he need the axe?
The whole point of Ragnarok was Thor finding out he doesn't need a weapon.
Right.
He's just
That's my
he
point.
is the weapon.
He didn't need the hammer.
No.
But now,
But then he goes
the
right
axe.
back to getting like, what can we get to kill Thanos?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree. It's going to come down between Thor and Thanos. I really think that's going to be the case. I think Hulk's going to play a big part in that, but I think it's going to come down between Thor and Thanos. And it definitely did in this movie, which we won't get to that part. But of course, he has the, what did he call it? The
Stonebreaker.
Stonebreaker?
No, Stonebreaker.
Stone or storm?
Star. I thought it was Stormbreaker.
I thought it was storm.
Storm or stone,
Okay.
whatever.
It's basically a giant
It's a
axe.
breaker.
It's a penis, is what
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
a big penis.
It's a giant penis.
And because the gauntlet penis was made there,
My God!
you got to make the axe penis there.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
So
hang
now-
on a minute. Hang on. The gauntlet penis. Okay, go move on.
Okay, so
But
So-
do you have to be an ultimate good guy to pick up the?
yes,
That's going to lead me to a Slater
Yes.
Captain. Yeah.
Ultimate
Oh,
good
I'm
guy.
sorry.
But,
We'll get to that in a second.
all right.
but
Anyways,
Oh.
Groot?
And
Okay,
Groot-
Jay, years ago when we first saw Guardians of the, or actually when we saw, because even at the first one, because he died,
Yeah.
and of course we know he's going to grow back because in the first one he came back as a and the first thing you said was, "I want to see teenage Groot."
Yeah.
And they hinted at it at the end of
Right.
Guardians 2.
that's
And
perfect.
they totally
Yeah.
pay it off in this one,
It was great.
which is great. And I love the fact that I do love
I
I don't like the
am
hammer
Groot.
axe so much, but I do love that it's Groot's arm
Yeah.
is the
right.
rod that holds the axe together. But
Is he playing Space Invaders?
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
No, he's
Or
playing-
was it Defender?
it was
Defender.
Defender.
Which is totally a great reference.
Yes.
I am great. Watch the whole room goes, whoa!
And then, and of course, Thor goes, and they're like, "You know what he's saying? Yeah, I just
I had to take it in college. It
college.
was
Right,
elective.
elective, yes.
Which that was very Deadpool, that joke right there. It just cracked me up. I still think that Disney did miss an opportunity though for Deadpool to accidentally
Death.
just walk in. And who did I say he should be with?
Lady Death.
Lady Death.
Yeah.
I think that the part that this is all missing.
And who's Lady Death?
Okay, we get to that's what I'm explaining.
Okay.
In fact, Earl can explain it better than I can, but I will say this:
So in the
Lady
original,
Death, Thanos is in love with death. They imply that he's in love with death there, but death is a concept. No, in the comics, he's actually in love with the god of death,
yeah,
and it's Lady Death. She's a skeleton.
that's the whole Infinity
She's like
War
Karen
in
from
the
the Greek
comics.
mythology. She's
Okay.
a skeleton in a robe, but the joke is that she doesn't love him. She loves Deadpool. Which is
No,
awesome.
I'm remembering this.
Yes.
now.
So
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, it's funny.
And I was kind of hoping that they would just do one thing where Deadpool walked on the screen with Lady Death and goes, "Are we in the wrong movie?" and just walk out. I just think that would be so great.
It could happen.
It could in the DVD, I guess.
Or in the next.
But go ahead and explain the death thing to Jay. Or is that
Oh,
enough? Was that?
No, that was enough because it's the whole point for Thanos doing what he's doing. And what we just watched, it's the whole concept of balance, right?
Right.
But in the comic book series, the whole concept is to show his devotion to Lady Death.
Similar to Darkseid trying to get the anti-life equation is very similar. He wants to destroy all life
Yeah.
to, I guess, recreate it in his own image. Or something.
But for Thanos, it's to show his devotion to Lady Death
Death.
because he has this infatuation. I love you. I want to show you my love.
Right.
So.
And meanwhile, she's boning Deadpool on the side.
Well, that was. Yeah.
Have you read Thanos versus Deadpool? It's so funny. I've got it upstairs. It's hilarious. So, but at any rate, so where are we at? We're kind of coming to the Wakanda part.
Oh yeah.
We're past the foraging and.
So in Wakanda, they go to the Avengers headquarters. Cheadle tells Ross to go fuck himself, and then they head off. Like, where are we gonna go? Well, they end up when he says going home. Later, they go to Avengers, and then later he's like, oh, well, let's go to Wakanda. Yeah, they kind of do that throwaway joke of, well, I hope you know where the hologram is.
Oh, we know where to save Vision.
Yeah. So they take Vision there, thinking that's going to be the safest place, which it makes sense. It would be.
Yeah.
And even what do they call Winter Soldier? The White Wolf.
White Wolf.
Yes.
Which is a comic book reference from back in the day.
Because who was now? I'm going to ask you this on a side here, real quick. Who was Nomad in the Marvel universe? Nomad, I thought was
Nomad
Bucky.
was Captain America. Yes.
But it wasn't Steve Rogers.
No. Nomad was Steve Rogers as Captain America when he got fucked and decided he was going to go on his own.
Because the Nomad I read back in grade school was Bucky. Like, he was Winter Soldier, but then he went off on his own and became Nomad.
So there might be two.
Okay. I'll have to look that up and see.
Because White Wolf is also Bucky.
Yeah, I never heard a reference to White Wolf before.
Yeah, I have.
You can sit here if that chair's too hard.
No, I'm just trying.
Are we
to
taking a break or are we?
No. I'm just standing up my back and my neck.
That's okay. We're nearly through the whole movie anyway.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Well, there is still a lot going on. You're absolutely right. So they go to Wakanda. Steve Rogers, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Banner, which we've kind of passed by all this time. All through this whole story, Banner's trying to get Hulk to come out, and he's fighting with Hulk, as we mentioned before.
Never happens.
It never happens. So they finally get to Wakanda. T'Challa does the thing in the trailer everybody sees, get this man a shield, which is, I love those shields. Those are pretty cool.
No, it's actually pretty cool. It's like claw shields.
Well, it also kind of felt like Crossbones when he had those hammers.
Yeah.
To me, they look like e-tools on your arm.
They did. They absolutely did. You're absolutely right. They did. I do kind of was hoping that maybe in the next movie it will, that the real shield will show up, like the actual, Spider-Man said, this thing defies all laws of physics, doesn't it? Yeah. I really want to see him get that shield back, because to me that's important.
Because who has that shield?
I was just going to ask that. Where is that shield?
I believe
he walked away from it, so Iron Man had it.
Yeah, he did. They did. They took it from him when he got arrested. But we'll get this back to you, and that's when Falcon said, I best not look out the window and see somebody flying around in that thing. That was that scene. They took it away from him. But they do the somebody get this man a shield thing. They do the whole Lord of the Rings. Now, was it just me, or for just a split second, Wakanda has the big barrier around itself.
Right.
They're all gearing up. Banner's inside the Hulkbuster, which is just funny anyway. He's like, it's like being the Hulk, but not being the Crash, and he hits the ground. He trips over himself and hits the ground.
He makes a reference to try to get the Hulk out. I'm in the machine that kicked your ass,
Yeah, he's trying to piss him off.
No.
But did anybody scene look a little familiar to anyone after the pseudo parademons start showing up? The dogs, the devil dogs.
It
was very Gungan Trade Federation.
Really?
Yeah, it felt for just a split second. It felt like that whole scene when the Gungans have the force field up and the robots just walk through the field.
Yes.
Oh,
and I'm like,
from Star Wars.
It's from the same angle. It's shot from the same angle.
You're right.
And I was like, it kind of bugged me a little bit. But I was like, okay, well, I got to remember Phantom Menace was like 20 years ago, so I guess that's okay.
And they bought the rights. So
of course, they have the rights, so that's, So anyway, they're in Wakanda. They're all busting up the shield. The chick shows up. Okay, we haven't even really talked about the minions yet. The minions of Thanos. They're pretty much like the minions of Darkseid, Steppenwolf and the Granny Goodness and all those. They're kind of like that. They're these incredibly powerful characters whose powers are not defined.
Well, one is probably similar to, if you saw Guardians 2, Ronan the Kree.
Yeah. They're like him. They're a lot like him.
Well, one of them is.
Yeah, the Hammer.
Well, the guy that kept on showing up out of nowhere.
Oh, the guy with the spiked ears.
No,
yeah.
No. Not the big guy, not the chick, but the other guy.
Yeah, that guy. The guy who beat up Vision.
Yeah. He was very Kree-like, so I think he was a Kree.
That makes sense.
He looked very similar to
Kree
Ronan.
is one of the alien nations.
The other two, don't know but anyways, they were really cool.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in Wakanda, they got Vision. Am I saying that right? T'Challa. I can never say his name.
T'Challa.
Right. Black Panther.
Yeah.
Black Panther's sister is reprogramming Vision, and she's
trying to get the Infinity Stone out.
She takes one scan of the dude, looks at Banner, and goes, "Why didn't you do blah?"
This.
And Banner's like, "We didn't know to do blah." She's like, "I think I can fix it, troglodyte." You know, that's pretty much how she treats him. Which is, up to this point, Banner and Tony are the smartest guys in the universe.
Right.
Until they just walk into Wakanda and she's like, "I'm an intern. I know more than you two."
Oh, she's not an intern, but yeah.
I know, but I'm saying she's a lot younger than you. So she's reprogramming Vision to, I guess, unlock his other powers.
What they're trying to do is
destroy it, take it out,
take it out, save Vision.
Yeah, that's right.
And destroy the stone.
Because Banner makes the argument there's so many things that made up Vision. There's Jarvis, there's Tony, there's
Ultron.
Banner, there's Ultron. The stone was just the last part.
Last part of it.
And there might be some part of Vision we can save.
Right.
And it establishes at that point also, and please, I hope they pay this off later, why the fuck is Scarlet Witch strong enough to destroy one of the gemstones? How is that possible? That doesn't make any sense.
I think they just needed a way to do it.
It was an ex machina. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of thought that too. It's like, okay. But I know that she's, the way you've always explained it, like she's the most powerful witch in the world. She's like...
her abilities in the comic are different than they are in the movies.
I mean,
within the Marvel Universe, she's still a very powerful being.
She can alter reality, actually. Yeah. She's that strong.
So maybe that has something to do with it?
I think it's because of the experiments to create them. When they went to that great part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., when he says, "I think we need to bring in the Avengers," and that's when Avengers 2 started.
Wasn't that stone, or was that stone not...
That was not the reality stone.
No, but was that stone used to kind of create their powers between him?
That's what I was asking. I think that stone was being manipulated to create Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
That might have been.
I think that's why. I think we're forgetting that part of it. I think that happened.
Right.
Which would make sense then. If her power was derived from the Mind Stone, she might have the power to shatter it, which I still think is a stretch, because these things are supposed to be like infinity stones.
Right.
You know, so it doesn't make any sense that some human who was mutated from the stone could do that. But whatever. So anyway, Vision basically says to her, "You again, just like Gamora did, you have to kill me if it comes down to it," which I'm like, I'm sick of that shit. But they finally get cornered by the minions of Thanos before Thanos shows up, and he talks her into, same thing with Gamora and Star-Lord, same exact shit. They kept repeating the whole thing, the whole movie. That kind of bugs me, actually. He's like, "You need to do it. You need to destroy the stone," and she actually does.
If you come down to it, you love me. You got to do what you got to do.
She did it when Thanos was there.
Yeah, and Thanos shows up, and Banner goes, "That's him."
Well, go back a little bit, because during the battle scene, you know, what if she's so powerful? Why is she? No, this was after she left. It was all a ploy to get her away from.
And Michonne makes that point. Like, why wasn't she out here the whole time?
Yeah,
because she took out like fucking 20 devil dogs in a second.
Yeah, well, the whole point was to lure her out.
Exactly.
Away from there.
So the actual Kree dude.
When I say Michonne, I mean the captain of the guard for Wakanda. She plays Michonne and whatever. The zombie Walking Dead. Sean. So
old man.
Yeah. You better check that prostate, or rather, you better have Claudia check that prostate. So they're in the other room. They're like, "What the fuck?" Yeah. So we're at that point when Thanos shows up. Now this is after he fought Tony, which makes perfect sense.
Well, he vanished after.
He vanished after that. Although Quill did the best vanish when he basically gave the finger and then fell through the portal. Which
Boom!
Was awesome. Boom! But then, of course...
I didn't like the fact that Thanos could get there so fast through the portal.
Why?
It's just... I don't know. That bothered me, that there should have been some sort of time lapse from him going from one place to the other.
Well, the Rainbow Bridge has a time lapse, you're right. Because when Heimdall transported the Hulk, it took some time. It wasn't instant. Now, granted,
Infinity Stones.
the beamers in whatever they're called in this MCU are very similar to the boom tubes in DCU. They're kind of instantaneous, or the Zeta Ray from.
So Thanos can do that, but why couldn't Doctor Strange?
No, I know.
He can. That's how it happened. Doctor Strange does that all the time.
Right, but why didn't Doctor Strange use his little magic powers
to get them back to Earth?
Yeah, so quickly.
That's a pretty good question.
That was like, But why are they still on that planet, just sitting there waiting for the end? Is it just because?
Well, they even say that Thanos is going to come to us, so we might as well just wait. He does say that. Strange says that, or somebody says that at some point.
I think that was
No,
earlier,
it was the ship going to get him. He said, "We're already headed there. Why don't we just fight them there instead of on Earth?" Because they couldn't figure out how to turn the ship around.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a surprise. That's
Right.
what one of them said. And so they fought there. But I'm with you. Like, well, okay, why didn't Strange just do the little portal and
Get them
take
back.
them back to Earth?
Because
after the battle. After
because
the
he
battle
only saw one outcome.
That's
Saw
why they stayed.
one outcome.
That would
And
actually make sense.
the outcome is what played out.
We have to stay here on the planet. I have to save Tony. I have to give him the stone.
Right.
He only saw
we're
one-
talking,
So that
we're
means
talking
we
about
have to be
after
here.
that. After all of that,
Mhm.
Thanos disappears and goes to Earth so quick in like an instant.
Right.
Why
because
does
Why can't Doctor Strange take
Yeah.
Tony and them back to Earth
Oh,
in an
maybe
instant?
he can.
At the
but
same-
based on
like,
what
right
because
he
you got to
saw-
remember.
I think we're
Hang on,
remembering
hang
that
on,
these
hang
are
on.
all taking place at the same time.
You
I
got to
think that's
remember.
what's
You got to
going on.
remember. You got to remember the time scope of this.
Yeah.
The moment that Thanos walks away or dissolves away once he got the time stone.
It was only minutes
Yeah.
before he destroyed everything.
Think about that.
They stretched
frame.
it out, of course. But
Right. So then, and this is where it gets into the whole Avengers 4 thing. What I think is going to happen. Once Thanos says he does this thing,
Yeah.
even after you thought Thor was like, oh yeah, fucking Thor, almost kicked his ass.
I do love that line. You should have aimed for the head.
Should aim for the head.
I love that line.
Always
You
aim
know,
for that.
That was
boom.
cool.
The Infinity Gauntlet does what it's supposed to do.
hmm
Takes out half of the fucking universe.
Right.
We start watching everybody fucking melt away throughout everything. But what I think is going to happen is there's actually a comic series that deals specifically with this. And it takes about 5 years afterwards. And Tony Stark,
Is this when Tony Stark started drinking?
I don't know about that. I haven't
Well,
read it.
he became an alcoholic in the comics.
But
know
I haven't personally read it.
that. As we talk about this drinking, he became an alcoholic in the comics. Fucking weirdo.
But it is called the Forever Comic, and it's 5 years after, and it deals with the Infinity War stuff.
Mm.
And I think they're going to take some aspects of that and bring everything back, because there's like the Cosmic Cube. I think is the
You've got the touch.
yeah.
Just
Oh, it's amazing. Shut
he
up.
literally just did
Oh
that
my
symbol though,
God.
and I'm like, you've got the touch.
Open, damn it, open.
because not only does he, but here's the thing is because not only did Thanos desire after the
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
y'all fucking suck.
That's it. Sorry. We get to
I'm
Transformers and
sorry.
start laughing.
You just did the symbol that just your hands are like perfect.
Yeah,
up.
basically,
Every episode,
dude.
yeah,
Every episode.
basically, it is a cube,
Yeah.
All right.
the Energon cube,
Okay, don't
But-
go there.
but in Marvel Universe,
Right.
it's called the Cosmic Cube, and he also wanted that.
Now, is that like the mother boxes in DCU, the Cosmic Cubes?
I think so.
Okay.
Because you got to remember, so I wanted to kind of like fast forward and rewind and everything else. Thanos is dark side,
Yeah, we know that.
and we know that
Yeah.
because all the comic book writers who did Thanos
Also did Darkseid, because Thanos,
Yeah.
Darkseid
or
was like 10 years
or
earlier.
mirrored it
Yeah.
Right.
after that. So
Dark
you know.
Side is DC, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
A lot of the artists and writers hop between
No,
Marvel and
no, I
DC.
get that. They're-
So
they're-
what
they're
you have
independent
here is what
contractors,
you have
whatever.
there.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm done.
So, well, we're
Let's
kind
go
of
back.
we're getting to the end here a little bit.
Yeah.
We're getting to the end. I want to focus on we kind of got into the fight where Thanos shows up. He beats Scarlet Witch. He uses the Time Stone, the Eye of
Yeah.
Agamotto, and turns time back and reconstructs Vision. And then
Time out. You never even went over that Vision gets killed.
well, that's what I'm getting at because Scarlet Witch kills Vision.
Succeeded
Right.
in what
She
she was trying to
succeeded.
do.
She also held. That's pretty
Held it
powerful.
off.
She held back Thanos and was dealing with the Vision thing at the same time, which
Mhm.
no one else at this point has been able to do that. I mean, even the Hulk got his ass kicked. So, in fact, it's funny because Scarlet Witch and Mantis are the only two people that could really stop Thanos at any point.
Right.
Like-
Mantis.
Mantis, the mind melt thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They're the only ones who could really stop him. which is kind of interesting to think about. But he shows up, he turns back time, reconstructs Vision, and basically rips the stone out of his head.
Yeah.
Now, again, all this completely calm and rational. He's not overexcited about anything. There's no long monologues. There's no speeches. He just shows up and fucking does his shit.
He did exactly like Bruce Willis did in The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah.
I'm going to dance a jig when this is over.
Yeah.
I'm going to go watch the sunrise when this is over.
And how about humanizing that character? That's right. That line is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we'll get to the end when he finally,
He watches sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
And he grins. But we'll get to that in a second here. We're almost there. So I just want to point out, though, that Captain America, for a split second during that last fight, after he defeats Vision and Scarlet Witch, here comes Falcon, he gets his ass kicked. Here comes War Machine, he gets his ass kicked. Finally, Captain shows up. Do you remember that scene in Avengers 2 when Cap was able to move the hammer just a little bit?
Right.
That same kind of thing happened when Thanos swung at him with the gauntlet, not his right hand, but actually the left-handed gauntlet, swung at Cap. Cap stopped it, and Thanos stops and goes, "What?" And then proceeds to go, "Fuck you," and then bashes him in the head. It's that split second. It's the same look. That's why I say that Thor and Thanos are parallel.
Yeah.
Because Thor had that same moment in Avengers 2 when he made the hammer move, and Thor goes, "Oh, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
Thanos had exactly the same look on his face. I think that Cap, and you're probably right then, Cap's probably going to be the ultimate sacrifice in the next one. He's going to be the one that saves everything.
Because rumor has it it's going to be Bucky's next. It's either Bucky or
Well, of course, Bucky's
Falcon.
dead now.
Well,
Yeah, we'll get
Now.
there. We'll get there.
finger quotes now.
What, Jay?
all right, let's just explain to me how all these things are going to come back to life.
Well, let's
Because
get
there's
to
going to
the
be
end
the
of the movie
cosmic
first.
cube that's going to do the
Okay.
whole reverse in time.
Then then there's the Eye of Agamotto, who can also go back in time.
Right.
We're back to time travel.
Yeah, time
Mount,
travel
Mount
is going
St.
to play
Helens
a
will
lot.
still
of-
explode.
I'm done. I'm out.
Jay, once time travel hits, Jay's like, I'm out. Time travel's like the Jesus thing. Like it can accomplish anything. Anything we fix. Bill and Ted had it
Because
right.
I'm saying, because what I'm saying is, they've already been filmed, all these characters for Avengers 4. So, the Avengers 4 is done. It's already been filmed. It's done.
It's pretty much in the
I believe
can.
you.
That's true.
I believe you.
But I think it's kind of like Back to the Future, where they filmed it at the same time. So of
Right.
course the stories are going to overlap really
But-
well.
But this was a very good homage to the original comic book series.
True.
So there was a continuation of that particular comic book series, which was Avengers Forever. So
We're almost to the end now. Let's go to Captain America. He stops Thanos for a split second. Thanos proceeds to bash his skull in, which
He's
I was
not
like,
dead.
He's not dead, but he does have a pretty good scar in his head at the end. Thor shows up at the last second, as he does, which I just for a split second, not when he fought Thanos, but when he first showed up in Wakanda, I wanted them to play just a snippet of the Immigrant Song, just for a second, that they played in. In Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Just just one thing. That's all I wanted, and then go away. I was like, oh, that is so cool, but they missed that.
Who hit Thanos and caused a little scratch blood?
Oh, that was
That was
Spider-Man.
Iron Man.
Yeah, that was the scene where I saw.
No, that was
Rocky-
Iron Man. That was Iron Man.
Yeah,
You're
When
right.
I heard Rocky 4, I
Yeah.
was like, "Come on, make that comment."
Yeah.
He's a human, just like
All that, and you just
She's not a
create little bit
machine.
of
Yeah,
blood.
just to prove that he's vulnerable
Yeah.
in any kind of way. That's a good point. He's like, all that for one drop of blood. But if you think about it, that's the most important thing.
It's just
The fact that there can be a drop of blood.
it's that Rocky 4 moment.
That's a good point. I didn't catch that it was Rocky 4. I caught the moment, but not that it was Rocky 4. That's awesome.
Because the only other one that drew drop of blood was fucking Thor.
Well, Thor got
With
it
the
later.
axe.
Iron Man got one. Bantus was able to stop him. Spider-Man kind of fucked him up a little bit, too. And
I think
Slowed him
Spider-Man
down.
more confused him than.
yeah, exactly.
Slowed him down.
And Scarlet Witch slowed him down, too. So those are like... And then, of course, Captain catches the punch. So...
But he got more mad at Spider-Man to the point where he even called him an insect.
Yeah.
You insect.
like, he's so
Like, you
pissed.
little fucker. How dare you? You are so annoying.
You're absolutely right. Spider-Man, which in Civil War, same thing. He was totally an annoyance, and Tony knew that. Tony's like, Spidey, go get him. Like, I'm going to piss this dude off, so when he gets so pissed at Spider-Man, he's not paying attention to what I'm doing. You're right. That's a good point. He did get frustrated with Spidey. So anyway, Thor shows up in actually earlier. One of the most awesome scenes I've ever seen. Thor was in Ragnarok when he got his thunder back.
Yeah.
But then in this one, the same thing kind of happened when he got the hammer back.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was like, watching the lightnings and his eyes glow and everything else. It was so cool. And then, of course, out of nowhere, shows up and shoves the axe straight into Thanos' chest, right where our heart would be. I don't know where his heart would be, but it's right in the chest.
Yeah.
And then Thanos just blips into nowhere land.
Yeah.
And he's in like this hallucination where he turns in the darkness and you think it's death.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I honestly
I
thought
didn't think it was death.
this was
I
gonna
thought
be.
it was-
We knew the story more than you did.
No, no,
I
I
honestly
didn't think it
thought
was
this
death.
was going to be the Lady Death scene.
Oh, okay.
But
I thought it was like what
Doctor Strange.
Vision would see.
put in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, that's an excellent point. But no, he sees Gamora as a child, and that could have gone a couple different ways. She kind of chastised him a little bit.
Oh, no, she totally chastised him.
Or I was also thinking it could go with a big grin on her face, and that's where death would come in. That's what I was thinking.
And that's kind of here I thought it was going to go.
Yeah. So anyway, he has this existential crisis again. There's a lot of those in this movie, actually. We already know he's upset about Gamora. Mantis has already confirmed that he's in turmoil, that he's pained about the whole thing, which just proves that he actually does feel that way about Gamora. But he was still willing to sacrifice. He still sees himself as a sacrificial figure
Because he believes in what he believes in.
He's devoted to what he believes in, and he believes that he has performed the ultimate sacrifice to save the universe. And essentially, just like Civil War, when we said about Zemo won. Zemo got exactly what he wanted in Civil War. They broke up the Avengers. He got Tony and Cap to fight. That's exactly what he was after, to fuck them up. And at the end of this, Thanos did exactly the same thing. He got exactly what he wanted right at the end. And his prediction, like you said earlier on, I'm going to sit there and watch the sunrise and appreciate everyone should appreciate what I've done.
It's like
Well, I think you said it. I'm gonna appreciate life because watching the sunrise, that's when life kind of flowers.
And
Because here's the deal. Initially, they could have played it this way. As soon as he snapped his fingers, Thanos is dead. Because Thanos, that is a fucking gamble. Even if you have the Infinity Gauntlet.
So you're saying that he didn't have control over it? It was a random thing? Like he said to the
He
genie,
said
kill half of
half
everybody, and the
of the
genie
universe.
does it on his own?
That
half
is
of the
true.
universe.
It doesn't.
How do you
him.
know that?
It's a good point.
That's almost like,
The ultimate
am I
sacrifice.
a part of that?
Yeah.
Am I a part of that?
And even
fucking
if I am, I'm
equation?
still willing to snap my fingers.
That's some dedication right there.
Wow. I kind of like Thanos more than anything else in
Because
this movie.
because
Thanos
Because-
is the true hero.
Yeah, he is.
because there was a split second.
Billy Zapka. The true hero,
Oh,
Karate Kid.
Yeah,
I gotta start watching that new Karate Kid thing on.
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't
but
seen
love
it at all.
Like you gotta subscribe to. that-
But
that-
still, that's the same principle.
Yeah.
Like the real hero of the entire movie is Thanos.
But in a weird way, throughout the entire movie, he makes comments that literally make you think, shit, he's kind of... You literally think about what's going on now in our real world.
In order for him
Based
to get
on
the
the
Soul
com-
Stone, he has to literally sacrifice something he loves, which is
Which
very
Gamora
important.
doubted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very important.
Because if he would have sacrificed anybody else, it
It
wouldn't
would have
work.
worked. It would
And
not
I
have
think
worked.
deep down she knew it, which is why she cried when she thought she killed him.
Mhm.
Fuck, this movie's way deeper than I thought it would be. You
a
even
good
said
movie.
that.
It's
when
a
we
good
left
movie.
the theater,
It's a
Jeff
good
even
movie.
said, this movie is way deep.
I gotta get to the podcast. I got shit to say. That's what it said. This is a deep ass movie.
So we're after the point where Cap gets his ass kicked. We're after the point where Thanos tricks Thor. Not really trick Thor, but like he takes the hit from Thor and then travels.
No, it's not tricking. He took the hit.
And basically, I think Thanos dies. I think he dies and then comes
No.
back again.
I don't think he dies.
I think when the axe got in him and he transported to wherever Gamora was, who is dead by the way.
No. That was after.
That's my point. Like I think he died at that point, but his will was so strong. They even say in the movie, it depends on whether your will is strong enough. And of course, Peter Quill says later, our will is stronger than yours, or Strange, or somebody says. Strange says it. I think you're going to find that our will is as strong as yours. But I think that Thanos actually died. He went to whatever's after, found Gamora. Gamora made him feel like shit, and then he said, nope, I'm going back. And bop, there he was. Because it just transitioned. There was no zap. There was no nothing. It just went scene, cut. And there he was with the blade still in his chest. And basically tell him, Thor, you're an idiot. And
then
opens the
he
portal
is-
behind him and then
yeah.
falls out.
Yeah.
So now where that portal goes, we don't know. But
No, it's Wakanda still.
that's my point, because you don't know where it goes then. But then everything stops. Everybody, you think it's the end, like Lord of the Rings. Everybody stops, and then suddenly people just start dissolving.
Yeah.
The 50% rule.
Yeah, and not even decimation. Decimation, actually, people misuse that term. Decimation only means 1 out of 10.
Oh,
That's actually not much. If you think about it.
This is the true 50% rule.
This is 50% across the board. Half
you
you
don't
die,
know,
half
you don't know
live.
who the fuck you are.
And it's random.
It could be 1 and 4. It
Wow.
could be fucking 5 and 6.
I want to know. They're already working on Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
How the fuck does that play out? Does Spider-Man 2 take place before
Because
Infinity War?
either it takes before or
Well,
well after.
you even said there was 5 years there, so it might take place before.
No, I'm just saying that the Avengers Forever series, which takes place after the Infinity War,
Yeah.
that addresses the Infinity War, takes place 5 years after, and they go after what they call the Cosmic Cube, which helps.
Okay, so here's
you
the
know.
ultimate question.
The ultimate question. Okay, hang on. Make sure I'm recording. Okay, the ultimate question, Jay. Go ahead.
The ultimate return, I guess. Does Kobe, whatever her name is,
Kobe Smulders.
return next season on Marvel TV show?
She hasn't been on that show in like 3 seasons. And she was only on there for like 1
So
season.
here's the ultimate response. Who the fuck is Kobe Smulders?
Kobe Smulders is Agent, what's her name? The one who dissolved at the end with Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. But Kobe...
Oh,
She's got out of
her.
the
Agent,
her. with him.
what's her name? Agent Nelson
I don't
or
remember
something.
her
I don't
name.
remember her name. But at the end of that great scene I was talking about in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson was talking to her on the VidCom. She wasn't actually in the show. She was there for like 1 scene.
No, I thought she was like a major part.
No,
of it.
she wasn't.
I've never watched this.
Ming-Na Wen. Ming-Na Wen is the main girl in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And she's badass. She's so
I do know Agent Coulson shows up back in Agent 4. Or Avengers,
Really?
Age of Avengers 4. They've talked about that.
Really? Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad about that. I like him a lot. I mean, I've kind of lost interest in the show for the most part, but I still like him.
Yeah, he returns because they've actually talked about that.
So,
Well, he's gonna have to because Sam Jackson.
now,
And he
remind me,
shows
did
back
did
up in
Iron
that,
Man
too.
or Doctor Strange ever make it back from that planet by the end of the movie?
No,
They're still there.
Nobody came back.
So
from that
Spider-Man disappeared.
Yeah.
Did Strange disappear?
No.
No. Strange and Tony are still there.
Yes.
Spider-Man, Quill, Drax all disappeared.
Yeah.
And Mantis.
And Mantis all disappeared. So Guardians are all gone. So it's basically just
With
Tony
ex-
and Strange.
No, yeah, not all the Guardians are gone because you got Rocket still.
Groot.
Well, I meant at that scene.
Yeah.
I just meant at that scene. Rocket's off with
And Groot's
Yeah.
gone.
No, I'm sorry. I'm
Groot's
sorry.
gone. You're right. At the
No,
end.
I'm sorry. Doctor Strange did dissolve.
Yeah, the only one left on that planet was
Tony.
Tony.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
weird. Okay, that should be interesting in the next movie.
But knowing Doctor Strange,
Now let's pause for a second and talk about the 2 best jokes, which of course came from the Guardians. The 2 best jokes in the entire film. The first one being when they're arguing about who Gamora is.
Yeah.
And Peter says to Tony, "Where's Gamora?" Tony says, "I'll do you one better. Who's Gamora?" And Drax, who's on the ground with a gun pointed at his head by Tony, says,
What
"I'll
is
do you one better.
Gamora?"
What is Gamora?"
No, why? Why is Gamora?
Why is Gamora?
He had some of the best.
Oh my
He
god.
did.
Drax is the best. And
My
Comically,
favorite Drax
yeah.
one was when he was standing there.
Oh, he's trying to be still. I
And
totally
he
forgot
goes,
about that.
if I stand still, I literally turn invisible.
I'm
And he's
gonna eat
eating-
these Cheetos really
it-
slowly
well,
so you can't
at
see
first
me.
I thought they were pretzels.
then Mantis walks by. Hi, Drax.
And he gets all
Damn.
mad and walks away. I was dying, dude. I was like, dude.
Or Rocket when he the eyeball. Holy
yeah,
fuck,
yeah, yeah.
the
I
eyeball.
don't know where I put it.
Okay, in
Might
in
wanna watch
Ragnarok,
that. Oh.
in Ragnarok, of course, Thor gets his eye knocked out by
Yes,
Hela,
Yes.
and he's got the eye patch on, which I'm like, it's so annoying. Like, who would do that? In this movie, he still has the eye patch on in the beginning, but then as the events go on, he ends up with Rocket and Groot trying to travel wherever they're going. And of course, as usual, Rocket shows up with a prosthetic eye,
No.
Which he stole.
which
from,
he stole from somebody.
Yeah.
And they totally do the Pulp Fiction watch scene.
Yes.
I think is Footloose
Oh,
the greatest movie ever made, or
well, that was Peter Quill.
That was
and,
Peter Quill.
and
Yeah.
Parker. That was Peter. The 2 Peters. They were talking about that because they're both pop culture nerds. But earlier, Rocket shows up. He's like, "Well, if we're gonna fight Thanos, you might want 2 eyes." And he hands him the eye, and Thor kind of goes, "Well, what's this?" He's like, "I got a prosthetic eye. I stole it from some guy who owed me money or something." He sits down in the chair. Then he pops it right into his skull. And of course, Groot's watching it like this, as if Groot knows what it's about. And then Rocket turns and goes, "Oh, I'd have washed that off first. When I stole that, I had to hide it in my red alert." But the best one is Rocket on the field in Wakanda standing next to the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
Yes.
And they do that whole Groot thing from the first movie where he grabs Rocket, the Winter's shooting one direction, Rocket's shooting the other, spinning in a circle, which is awesome, by the way. And then he lands and goes, I want that gun. He's like, it's not for sale. It's like, how much for that arm? And he looks at him like, fuck you, rodent, and walks away. And Rocket's mumbling to himself, I'm going to get that arm.
I'm going to get that arm.
Which I think that was probably the best joke in the whole movie. I'm going to get that arm. Okay, I think we've beaten it to death. We've come to the end. Thanos, he ports away from Thor, pulls the axe out of himself. Mm-hmm. People start disappearing. This whole, oh my god, people are dead shit, which in the comic book we know is not true. Not ultimately. The very last scene, which felt like the end, like they don't need to continue. It felt like Thanos shows up in this cabin somewhere kind of in Africa near Wakanda.
No, it was Wakanda.
Was it the gorilla habitat?
No.
Or the gorilla home?
It was Bucky's fucking cabin.
Oh, the White Wolf's cabin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what?
It was Bucky's cabin.
When Thanos ports away from Thor,
yeah,
the axe comes out of him.
Right.
Then all the people start disappearing. They have all those old death scenes with Peter Parker and everybody else. Who cares? And then at the very last scene in the main film, Thanos steps out into the sunshine, like you said.
Yeah.
In that weird cabin in the hills.
That was Bucky's cabin.
Okay. I didn't know that part.
Because I don't think it was, because he had a specific place in mind that he was going to watch.
No.
I don't know.
Watch the sun.
That was Wakanda, Bucky's cabin.
Okay.
We'll
have to look that up.
I'm almost 90% sure that's where that was at.
Okay. I'm not going to disagree that that's probably the location they used, but I don't think that's what it was supposed to be. Because
he
it's
got
not
to
like,
see a sunset.
Well, yeah.
Well, we're getting to that. I mean, who cares where it was? Yeah. It was somewhere in the woods, in the mountains, isolated.
Yeah, because I know he had a specific place. I just don't know where that was.
And Thanos tromps out as the great character he is. I mean, what a great character he is. Tromps out, stands at the end, looks at the sun, and then smiles.
Yeah.
Like he's about to die. Like he knows he might. Because, like you said, he's not exempt from his wish.
That's another take on that. That's his breaking into a cigar.
Yeah,
job well done.
That's
the A-Team type of.
The fat lady has son.
Yeah, he's
he
done.
thinks he's won.
But he's unscathed. He's not unscathed because the fucking gauntlet's all messed up.
Gamora's gone.
Gamora's gone. You could see.
He still has the wound on his neck.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
Here.
Yeah. He's been fucked up, but he's like, I won.
Or did he?
Well, that's what the sequel's about, obviously. But I think that was such a great ending. I think by itself, if that movie alone were to be made at the end of the Marvel MCU, we'd all still be like, all right, move on to the next reboot.
Honestly, I think that would be better because I had no idea there was an Avengers 4 coming out.
I think so. It goes along with what you said about Arrow. Arrow should have died 3 years ago.
Yes.
When he became mayor, that should have been the end of the show. I feel that way about this scene.
Oh my god.
Thanos walking out, grinning. He wins. Bad guy wins. End of story. Of course, people are getting pissed. You got to pay off Captain America and everybody else.
Yeah, but Thanos didn't win.
So real briefly,
you don't have to. I mean, all you got to do is not kill Gamora and not kill Spider-Man, and the rest of them can just go away because they've been just doing it for too damn long anyway. I mean, let's move on.
Guardians and Spider-Man can move on. Everybody else can go away.
Well, and really, I mean, let's move on. I'm not saying let's do DC and reboot everything, but let's do like Captain Marvel.
The next story.
Yeah, let's do more.
Yeah, maybe they will.
Yeah,
because there's going to be some time.
I do think this plays into what we talked about when we saw Guardians 2, that this is the new Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of Guardians, this is the big chapter in the next kind of Star Wars-ish.
Well, they finally at the Empire Strikes Back
moment. Yeah, exactly.
Like, it ended on such a down note.
What I like, I was about to say I was impressed that you would think about that, but now I know it's because of a Clerks reference, which is totally different, by the way. But we'll take another break here for a second. Let's hit the post-credit scene.
Yes.
Post-credit scene is clear at the end of the credits. There's no post-credit scene at all.
Oh, wait, we've got a scene before this.
What's that? By the time Thanos smiles, what else is there?
Stanley's
Stanley's cameo.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty early on. Stanley is driving the school bus that Peter Parker's on when the whole thing starts. When Peter's arm, does the Spidey sense thing, and Pete says to his chair buddy, whatever his name is, I want to be the one in the chair. That guy.
You're right.
He says to him, I need a distraction. And the kid turns, sees the apocalyptic machine,
Yeah.
and goes,
We're gonna
die! And the Red's like, well, that works. And of course, then Peter does that great escape, flies away,
Out
which
the
I thought was really
window,
cool.
whatever.
And then here's Stanley driving the truck, turns and looks without watching the road at all.
The school bus, just
The
like a
school
school
bus.
bus, just like Otto.
And turns and
and-
goes, will you guys cut that crap out? And then I remember I literally said physically, you might have heard me,
You did.
watch the road!
You actually did.
So that's the Stan Lee cameo. But at the very end, the last cameo is what we talked about kind of a bit earlier. Kobe Smulders and Sam Jackson show up. They're just in Manhattan. They're driving around or whatever. And a car, they're just talking. And at first you don't know who they are, but as soon as you hear Sam's voice, and then you see Kobe's face kind of turn, you're like, oh, okay, that's Agent What's-Her-Name and what's Sam's name?
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury. So a car spins out in front of him, and I thought for a second it was going to be like an attack, like it was in Winter Soldier,
Right.
when they pinned him in, which is an awesome scene, by the way. But then it wasn't. Nothing happened. And they get out, and Kobe walks up to the window and goes, "There's nobody in this car. What the hell's going on?" And then she dissolves, and then Sam's like, "Motherfucker," and runs away. And it's like, oh, and he reaches in the rig for something, and starts to type like a text message, but you don't see what he's really holding in his hand. And then that's when he makes the motherfucker line. He's like, mother! And then he disappears, and the pager hits the ground. It dials like an old-style pager with weird batteries and shit on it.
Searching.
And what does it show, Earl?
It shows Captain Marvel's symbol.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that scene brought two things. One, that it's showing that this isn't just happening on the battlefield; it's happening
Everywhere.
and I think that's where, if you didn't understand that, it brings that home.
This felt like those movies like The Great Escape or The Dirty Dozen, where there's all these little stories going on at the same time, and everything's, or like Thomas Crown Affair or Ocean's 11. All these little vignettes are going on, and they all culminate into one story. And I think that's what this was like. Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
We're about to take a break. I think we've beaten Avengers Infinity War Age of Ultron, Infinity War to death. So I think we're good.
Oh.
All right, folks, we're out for
I
now.
said that you
We'll talk about
only
something in a
quarter
second.
way through your
That was when I said it was a quarter way through.
Now I just.
Well,
Going
we've
through the rest
completed
of
the
Yeah.
movie we saw today.
We've killed it.
Because
Yeah.
the last 3 quarters was like.